Welcome to another night of Reddit stories to fall asleep to. Whether you're winding down after a long day or just looking for a peaceful escape, we've got a selection of stories that will ease your mind and carry you into the night. We'll dive into the world of heartfelt confessions, unexpected twists and touching moments from real people, just like you, who've shared their experiences on Reddit. These stories are meant to relax, entertain and soothe you into a calm state, perfect for drifting off into dreamland. So, settle in, get cozy, and let the stories take you on a gentle journey. Take a deep breath. Let go of the stress from today. It's time to relax. Let's get started. Am I the a-hole for turning my dead sister's legacy into a lie to protect my niece from the truth she can never know? My name is Claire. I'm 36, a high school English teacher, married, no kids. I used to have a sister, Lily. She was 2 years younger than me, beautiful, chaotic, soft-hearted in a way that made you want to protect her and scream at her at the same time. Lily was the type of person who burned brightly and left ashes. She was the golden one growing up. Everyone loved her. I was the reliable one. The invisible scaffolding that kept her from falling off every emotional cliff she built. And I loved her despite it. Maybe because of it. She got pregnant at 20. No one knew who the father was. She gave birth to a little girl, Ellie, and everything changed. I watched Lily try to become a mother, try and fail over and over, drugs, rehab, relapses. Our parents disowned her when she used meth in our family home while babysitting. I didn't. I took her in. I took them both in, and for a few precious months, I saw a version of Lily that made me believe she might actually make it. Then she disappeared. It wasn't the first time, but this time she didn't come back. She was found 3 weeks later in an abandoned apartment across town, dead from an overdose. Ellie was barely 3. She was at daycare the day Lily died. If she hadn't been, I became her guardian. It was automatic in a way. No one else wanted her. I was the responsible sister, the one who stayed, the one who had a mortgage and a steady job, the one who knew how to lie to social workers and courts and tell them everything would be fine. Ellie is 9 now. She thinks I'm her mum. I never corrected her. Everyone thinks I adopted her. I didn't. I just never told her the truth. But that's not what this is about. It's about what happened last month. Ellie had a school project. Family trees. One of those well-meaning assignments that feels harmless until you realize it could unravel a decade of careful silence. She came home all excited, asking me questions about Grandma and Grandpa and where was I born and do I have cousins, and I panicked. I told her they died in a car crash when she was little, that she didn't have cousins, that I was the only family she had left. Then she asked about her dad, and I told her he was dead too. That was the second lie. The first was that Lily had died in an accident. I told Ellie she slipped in the bathtub and hit her head. That was the story I told everyone. I said it so many times I almost believed it. But none of that is the worst part. Here's the real confession. The truth I can't say out loud, even to myself some days. Lily didn't die of an overdose. I killed her. It was unintentional, but it was me. That night, 10 years ago, Lily showed up at my house high, ranting, paranoid, shaking. She was crying about Ellie's dad, said he was coming back, that he'd found her, that he wanted Ellie. I'd heard this before. Her delusions were always worst after a bender. But this time, something about the fear in her voice felt real. I tried to calm her down. I made her tea. I told her to stay the night, but she wouldn't. She kept grabbing her bag, muttering about needing to hide Ellie, get cash, disappear again. So I did something I'd never done before. I slapped her. Hard. She froze, looked at me like I'd become someone else, and then she left. I didn't stop her, didn't follow. I told myself she needed to hit rock bottom to come back. Instead, she died. But here's what the police never figured out. That apartment? I sent her there. It was a place an old friend of mine had used as a squat years ago. I still had the keys. When Lily begged for a place to hide out, I gave it to her. I told her I'd bring Ellie to her in a few days, hoping it would give me time to think, to make her detox, to figure out if I could help her again. Instead, she died alone, cold, covered in vomit and blood. And the bag next to her, it was filled with baby clothes, ones that no longer fit Ellie, a few $100s and a pistol. She really had been planning to run, and maybe someone really was after her. I told the police I hadn't seen her in weeks. They didn't question me. Why would they? I was the responsible sister. After that, I buried her body and buried the truth. I told Ellie nothing, but that changed when she found a photo. Last week, it was from when she was 2. Me, Lily, and Ellie at the beach. Ellie clutched it like a sacred object and asked, "Who is this lady?" I froze, said it was an old friend. She looked at me and said, "She looks like me." And I lied again, said it was a coincidence. That night I cried until my nose bled. So here's where I think I might be the a-hole. I've rewritten her entire origin story, turned her mother into a faceless ghost, turned her father into a memory that never existed, created a legacy based on lies, all to protect her. But is it really for her or is it for me? So I don't have to tell a 9-year-old girl that her mother was an addict who died alone in a squat I sent her to. So I don't have to admit I never stopped her from walking into her own grave. So I don't have to say that the man she keeps, asking about her dad, was someone Lily met in a halfway house. Someone with a criminal record I never identified. Someone who might still be alive. Someone who might still be looking. I've built a beautiful lie around a jagged truth, and part of me wants to keep it that way forever. But another part, the one that whispers at night, tells me I'm a monster. So Reddit, tell me, am I the a-hole, or just a mother trying to protect her daughter from a story that should have died with her sister? Am I the a-hole for destroying my twin brother's life after discovering he had been living mine behind my back? It started with a photo I wasn't supposed to see. My name is Ryan, and I'm 29. I don't know how to start this without sounding like I'm unraveling, but maybe that's what I'm doing. Unraveling the lie that's wrapped around my entire life like a warm blanket soaked in gasoline. I was raised by a single mother, Celia, in a quiet coastal town in Oregon. She was a soft-spoken woman, reserved, almost clinically distant, but she loved me, or so I thought. We didn't have much, but she kept me fed, clothed, homeschooled, and hidden from the world. I say hidden because I didn't attend public school, didn't have friends over, wasn't allowed to use the internet freely. My world was her, our house, books and puzzles. I thought it was normal. She told me I was too sensitive for the world, and that I had a condition that made it unsafe for me to be overstimulated. I believed her. Until I turned 20. That was when she died. Stroke, sudden. I was left completely alone. I had no legal documents, no bank account, no social security card, no license. It was like I didn't exist. I contacted the authorities, who referred me to social services. When they dug deeper, they found something strange. According to hospital records, Celia had given birth to 2 boys, identical twins. I was shocked. She'd never mentioned a twin. Never once. I thought it was a clerical error until I saw the photo. It was tucked inside a locked drawer in her bedroom, which I opened with a hairpin weeks later while sorting through her things. In it were dozens of photographs of a boy who looked exactly like me, but with different clothes, a different setting. A birthday party at a country club, a soccer team, a Christmas morning in a house I didn't recognize. A Mother's Day card signed Ryan. Only I was Ryan, or so I thought. That's when I realized I wasn't Ryan, I was Ethan, the other twin, the one Celia stole. I began digging. The truth unfolded like a crime novel, because it was a crime. Celia was the biological mother of both. Of us, yes. But when we were toddlers, she lost custody due to mental health issues and allegations of abuse. Our father, whom I'd never heard of until then, Jonathan Porter, was awarded full custody. Celia vanished with 1 child, me, Ethan. She changed my name, homeschooled me, isolated me, and raised me to believe I had some undiagnosed condition to justify keeping me from everyone and everything. I thought the world was dangerous. In reality, I was the danger to her secret. Ryan grew up with our father. I found his social media. He was successful, confident, married, living in Seattle. A software developer, active in charity. He had my face, but more than that, he had my life. The one I never got, the one I didn't even know existed. I stared at his LinkedIn for hours before I messaged him. I expected disbelief, maybe hostility. What I got was something worse. A cold, calculated reply. "I know who you are, do not contact me again." I was floored. He knew I sent another message, and another. Finally, he called me. His voice sounded exactly like mine. It was like talking into a mirror that hated me. He confirmed it. Yes, he knew, our father knew. The police searched for years, but Celia disappeared. When I turned 18, my file was marked inactive. He told me I was better off not stirring the past. That Celia was mentally ill and I'd been her victim. But digging it up wouldn't help anyone. He was firm, almost rehearsed. But it didn't sit right. Why was he so calm? Why hadn't he tried to find me once he was old enough? Why did he sound like he was trying to contain something? I dug deeper. I requested public records, old police reports, pieced together the timeline. And that's when I found it. An old family friend who had testified during the custody battle. I tracked her down. She was in a nursing home. Frail, confused. But when I said Celia's name, she flinched. "She only took one," she whispered. But not the one she meant to. She was screaming, crying, got the boys confused. I froze. "You mean she meant to take Ryan?" She nodded. "Said Ryan was the sweet one. Ethan was too loud, too much like his father. She was going to take Ryan, but she took me. I was never meant to be hidden. I was the wrong twin." Don't know what snapped inside me then. Something primal. I felt like a glitch in the universe, like I'd been raised in the dark for a life I was never meant to live, and the one who got the light knew the whole time. So I destroyed him. Started small. I created a burner email and sent photos of us side by side to his wife labeled, "Your husband's secret twin." She didn't believe it. Until I mailed her a DNA test, I paid for it, she sent it in. The results came back 99.9999% match. She confronted him. He came clean. But that was just the beginning. I started posting on forums, true crime threads, long-lost family boards, hinting at the abduction, the silence, the cover-up. Stories gained traction. Then I uploaded old footage, Celia's homeschooling videos, me reciting multiplication tables, isolated, pale, twitching from medication. Comments poured in. "This is abuse." How did no one notice? Where was the other twin? Soon journalists were sniffing. A podcast reached out. I gave an interview with voice distortion. They dubbed it The Stolen Twin. Ryan's life began unraveling. His job put him on leave, pending investigation. His wife took the kids and moved in with her parents. His social media vanished. The charity dropped him from the board. All I did was tell the truth and watch the world do what it does best. He called me one last time, screaming, said I'd ruined everything, that I didn't understand, that he hadn't told anyone because he was trying to protect me, that our father made him swear not to reopen the wound, that maybe I should be grateful I didn't grow up with our abusive, controlling father. "You think you missed out?" he spat. "You think your life was hell? Mine was a pressure cooker. Dad didn't. Want another version of her? You got the better deal." I hung up because I didn't believe him, or maybe I did, and that made it worse. Now I sit in Celia's old house, my house, watching the wreckage I created. A family broken, a man isolated, and I ask myself, did I do this because I wanted justice, or because I wanted revenge? Was I trying to reclaim something stolen, or burn down the house that left me outside? So here I am. Am I the a-hole for destroying the man who lived the life I never got, or was I just finally living mine? Am I the a-hole for destroying my father's legacy after discovering what he made me a part of without my consent? I know people say the dead can't defend themselves, and maybe it's unfair to spit on a grave, but some legacies deserve to burn. And I won't let silence protect a lie anymore. I'm 35 years old. My father died 2 months ago. To the outside world, he was a titan. Dr. James C. Langston, philanthropic psychologist, author, beloved family man, and founder of the Langston Institute for Child Rehabilitation. He was celebrated in documentaries, gave TED Talks, consulted for the UN on trauma response. He was the man who gave broken children a second chance. And for most of my life, I believed it. I lived it. I was the poster child for his success. Or so I thought. But now, 2 months after his death, I've uncovered things that make me question every moment of my childhood, every word I've ever spoken in his defense, and whether I was ever truly a person or just part of his machine. I need to tell this story, and I need you to tell me if what I did makes me the a-hole or if I was just the last thread unraveling a lie too big to leave standing. I was adopted by Dr. Langston at the age of 6. Before that, my early life is a fractured thing. Memories that strobe in and out like a broken reel. I remember hunger, screaming, being cold, a dog barking, a woman's hand, bruised and trembling. Then I remember being driven up a winding road in the mountains to the Langston estate. That's what we called it, Arsene, the estate. It wasn't a home, it was a fortress of marble and iron, perched like a crown above the valley. Children came and went. Some stayed months, some years. All of them were patients. I was the exception, the adopted son. My room was bigger. I had privileges, tutors, private sessions with father. He'd tell me I was special, chosen, that I was the proof that love could rewrite blood. I worshipped him. I was his golden child. I went with him to conferences, wrote glowing essays about my recovery, sat on panels, became a licensed counselor myself, carried the Langston legacy like it was holy. And then he died. Heart attack. Peaceful. He was 78. There was a state funeral, obituaries in the Times, a bronze bust commissioned for the Institute. I gave the eulogy, I called him a saint, I wept at his casket. I meant every word, until I found the room. You see, father left everything to me, the estate, the Institute, his private journals. He even wrote, "I trust you to protect the work, Daniel. The world doesn't need the truth. It needs the story." At the time, I thought it was poetic. I didn't know he meant it literally. A few weeks after the funeral, I started cleaning out the East Wing, his private offices. That's when I noticed something strange. The blueprint said the hallway ended, at the archives. But the floor felt hollow beyond the last shelf. I knocked, empty resonance. I traced the wall, found a crack, just enough for a key. It was hidden behind a false spine on one of his books. The key fit. The door clicked open. Inside was a room, small, dim, lined with shelves of tapes, VHS, reel-to-reel digital, all labeled in father's handwriting. Subject 3A, Reinforcement Trial 2B, Memory Extraction Protocol 4C. At first I thought they were therapy sessions, historical archives. But when I played the first one, I saw myself. I was maybe 7, hooked to wires, crying, my voice high and panicked. "Please don't do it again. I didn't mean to forget." A man off screen says calmly, "You have to remember, Daniel, if you forget, she dies again." Then the screen cuts to a flashing image, a woman's body in a bathtub. Blood in the water. Over and over, I scream, I convulse. The man whispers, "Now tell me what happened. Say it correctly. If you get it right, she comes back." The screen goes black. I vomited, right there in the room. Then I played another, and another. And I realized the Institute wasn't therapy, it was a lab. And we, the children, were experiments. Father didn't heal trauma. He created it. He believed that if you could artificially induce trauma and then control how a child recovered, you could shape identity like clay. Make them anything, obedient, brilliant, loyal, fearless. He called it constructive catharsis. He submitted papers under pseudonyms, got them rejected by every ethics board, so he built his own kingdom, took in wards of the state, and rewrote their minds, mine included. The woman in the bathtub, not my mother, a composite, a video stitched together with actors and horror footage. He made me believe I'd watched my mother die, replayed it until I could recite it like a bedtime story. Then he healed me, taught me to let go, gave me a new name, Daniel Langston. I confronted one of the old staff members, now retired. At first she denied everything. Then she broke, said she stayed silent because she believed in the outcome, that father did make our lives better. that many of us were broken when we arrived, that he just helped us heal faster, more efficiently. I tracked down other graduates. It took months. Most didn't want to talk, some did, and what they said haunts me. One girl said she has no idea which of her memories are real. One man said he tried to kill himself after remembering a session where father convinced him he'd murdered his own brother. His brother is alive and well in Michigan. One woman told me she was told her body was too tempting at age 9, and father cleansed her by making her hold ice on her skin until it blistered. All of them carry scars they can't explain. So I made a choice. I leaked everything, the tapes, the journals, the false studies, the donor lists, the ethics violations. I sent it to every major news outlet. The story exploded. Overnight, the Langston name went from revered to reviled. Statues defaced, programs suspended, investigations opened. The institute shut down. Lawsuits are pending. There may be criminal charges against some surviving staff. My extended family, those who believed in father, cut me off. They say I ruined his legacy, that he was a genius, that I'm ungrateful, that everything he did worked, that I am proof of that. But am I? Who would I have been without him? What memories did he erase? What fears were never mine? I don't know what's real anymore. Only that a man I loved more than anything made me into something I never chose to be. And I shattered his kingdom because I couldn't live in a lie one more day. So tell me, am I the a-hole for tearing it all down? For desecrating the man who saved me? Or was I finally giving voice to the children he buried under his brilliance? Am I the a-hole for confronting my mother about something I wasn't supposed to remember, and shattering everything in the process? I need to preface this by saying, I don't think I'm okay. I've gone back and forth for weeks about whether to post this. I'm not sure what kind of response I even want. Validation, punishment, understanding. Maybe just to know I'm not insane. Because right now I feel like a stranger in my own mind, and every memory I trusted has turned into something I can't look at without flinching. I'm 29 years old. I was raised by a single mother who I used to think was a saint. My dad bailed before I was born. I used to fantasize about what kind of man he might have been, but Mom always said he was a mistake, a phase, and that we were better off without him. She worked 2 jobs when I was little, diner waitress and receptionist, came home exhausted but always managed to sit with me at dinner, read me stories, help with homework. We lived modestly, in a 2-bedroom apartment, in a creaky old building. That smelled like soup and dust. It wasn't glamorous, but it was safe. Or so I thought. I've always had strange dreams, since I was a child. Not nightmares exactly, but recurring images, feelings, disjointed sensations. Cold tile on my back, a ceiling fan spinning slowly above me, a shadow at the edge of a doorway, heavy breathing, the smell of bleach. Sometimes I'd wake up sobbing. I never really understood why. As a kid, I chalked it up to night terrors. As an adult, I dismissed it as anxiety. But one dream kept coming back, more like a fragment than a story. I'm in a dark room, there's music playing, muffled through walls. I'm hiding under a bed. I can hear someone sobbing. A woman's voice. I see feet, a man's boots. I smell something sweet, like strawberries or shampoo. Then silence. Then the door creaks open and I wake up in a panic. Always at 3:11 a.m., every single time. I started calling it the 3:11 dream. A few months ago, I went home to visit Mom. She still lives in the same apartment, though it feels smaller now. She's older, slower, complains about her hip a lot. We were drinking tea in the living room when I had a strange wave of déjà vu. I looked at the hallway, the crooked picture frame on the wall, and suddenly the air felt too tight. I asked, "Harriet, did something happen in this apartment? Something bad?" She looked at me like I'd grown horns. "What are you talking about?" she said. I told her about the dream, the hallway, the boots, the crying. She laughed, and said I was being dramatic, that I always had an overactive imagination. But I saw it in her face, the flicker, the mask slipping just for a second, and then she changed the subject. That was the first time I really felt it, that gnawing sense that she was hiding something from me. So I started digging. I asked around the neighborhood, visited the library, searched old newspaper clippings. It was an off chance, a wild thought. But I found something, a story from 1997 when I would have been about 3. It was buried deep in the local crime blotter. A woman named Sandra Mulroney had gone missing from our neighborhood, last seen entering the apartment building next to ours. Never found. The photo made my stomach drop. It was the face from my dream, the sobbing woman, same hair, same earrings. I recognized them without knowing how. I confronted my mother the next day. She denied everything, said I was imagining things, said maybe I saw the news as a kid, and it stuck in my head. But I didn't believe her. I knew something was wrong. The next week when she was out, I went through her things. I found a shoebox in the back of her closet wrapped in duct tape. Inside were photographs of me as a toddler, with a woman who was not my mother, the woman from the dream, the missing woman. There were notes on the back of the photos. Me and Nicky, 1996. First haircut, May 1997. His favorite book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Stomach flipped. Nicky. My name is Nicholas. My mom, the woman who raised me, always said she named me after her grandfather. But here was this stranger, this missing person, calling me Nicky before the date she supposedly disappeared. I dug deeper. I found a crumpled-up journal page tucked in the bottom of the box. It was a letter. I'm scared he's going to hurt us. He gets angry when I take Nicky out without telling him. I'm thinking of going to the police. There was no signature. I took everything to the police. They were skeptical at first, said the case was cold, over 25 years old. But when they saw the photos, the dates, the letter, I saw their faces change. They took a DNA sample from me, said they'd look into it. It took weeks, agonizing, unbearable weeks. I avoided my mum's calls, couldn't sleep, kept having the 311 dream. But this time it kept going. I saw the boots walk closer. I saw a hand reach under the bed. I saw a woman scream. Then the police called me. I'm not my mother's son. I mean, I am, legally. She raised me. She fed me. But biologically, no. My real name is Nicholas Mulroney. I was abducted in 1997 after my mother, Sandra, disappeared. The investigation had always suspected foul play but could never prove it. The man she was dating at the time was questioned, but not arrested. No body was ever found. The case went cold. But now, with me, they had a match. And it turns out, the man was my mother's older brother. My uncle, a man I never met. He died in 2003 in a car crash, but in 1997 he was dating Sandra Mulroney. When she went missing, he moved back in with his sister, my so-called mom. Months later, she suddenly had a new son she claimed was hers but had no birth certificate for. People asked questions, sure, but she said she'd had a home birth, that the father had fled, that she didn't want the baby in the system, and people let it go. Because she was sweet, quiet, church-going, and I was just a baby. Who would question a single mother starting over? They believe Sandra was killed in our apartment. They believe I witnessed it, that the trauma was buried so deep in my psyche. It only came out in dreams. That my mom knew helped cover it up, maybe even helped raise me as a way to protect herself and her brother's secret. They can't charge her with murder. There's no body. But obstruction? Kidnapping? Those are still options. When they came to arrest her, she cried. She screamed my name, said she saved me, said I would have gone into foster care. That she gave me a better life. That she loved me. And I believe her. I really do. I think in her twisted way she thought she was doing the right thing. But she also let my real mother die, buried her, erased her, and raised me like a trophy. Now, I don't know who I am. My entire childhood feels like a lie. My laughter, my birthdays, my bedtime stories, all built on a grave. I've met Sandra's sister, my real aunt. She sobbed when she saw me, said I have her eyes. She gave me a necklace that used to belong to my mother. I've worn it every day since, but I haven't forgiven my mom. I don't think I can. I keep thinking about the dreams, how they tried to warn me, how my body remembered what my mind couldn't. And I wonder, if I hadn't pushed, if I hadn't dug, would I have lived my whole life believing I was someone I wasn't? So here I am, a man with two mothers, one buried in secrets, one buried in the ground. Am I the a-hole? For exposing everything? For sending the woman who raised me to prison? Or was I just reclaiming the life that was stolen from me? Am I the a-hole for tearing apart my entire family after discovering I was never supposed to exist? This isn't a revenge story, not really. This is a story about rot, about what happens when something diseased hides under the floorboards of a seemingly perfect life. It's about discovering that your entire reality was constructed from someone else's guilt, and how pulling one thread unraveled everything. I'm not here to be judged, honestly. I'm here because I don't know how to live with the truth anymore. I'm 31. Until a few months ago, I thought I had a typical life, boring even. I grew up in a quiet suburb in New Hampshire, with two parents who seemed to love each other in that tired wine at dinner, bicker on vacation sort of way. My mother was a nurse. My father worked in finance. I was an only child. Our house was filled with photo albums, bad DIY crafts, an attic full of dusty holiday decorations and moldy boxes of baby clothes. I never thought to question any of it. Why would I? My childhood was relatively uneventful. I was a shy kid, got good grades, went to college, got a job in publishing, no siblings to fight with, no scandals, just beige, safe normalcy, until Christmas. My dad had died the previous year. Heart attack, sudden but not shocking. He was in his 60s, overweight, smoked in secret even though he thought no one knew. My mother was devastated, or at least she acted devastated. I moved back in with her for a few months after the funeral because she started drinking. Not the dramatic flailing kind of drinking. More like empty bottles hidden in laundry baskets, vodka in a travel mug, sleeping through entire weekends. She wasn't violent, she was just gone. So I stayed, took care of her, cleaned the house, paid bills she forgot. She eventually stabilized, or pretended to. I moved back out, fast forward to Christmas. We decided to spend it together at her house, just the two of us. I offered to cook dinner. She got tipsy around noon, and by 4 she was slurring, giggling, trying to dance to Nat King Cole. She pulled out a box from the attic labeled Xmas 1990s, dumped it on the floor, and we started sorting through old ornaments and cards. That's when I found it. A small manila envelope sealed with brittle tape marked "Do Not Open Private L." I laughed, asked her what it was. She went pale. "Just trash," she said. "Old junk. Throw it out." She tried to grab it from my hands. I didn't let her. Something about her reaction flipped a switch in me, some primal curiosity I didn't know I had. She started crying, begging, saying it would destroy everything. I took it to the bathroom and locked the door. Inside were 5 things: a birth certificate, a faded photo, a hospital wristband, a short handwritten letter, and a death certificate. The birth certificate wasn't mine. Different name, same birthday, same hospital. The photo showed a newborn in a hospital blanket, but the date on the back said January 1992, not December, which is when I was supposedly born. The wristband said Baby Langston, female. The letter was from a woman named Rebecca. It started with "To the woman raising my daughter," and ended with "Please tell her the truth when she's old enough. She deserves to know." The death certificate was for Rebecca Langston, died February 1992, car accident. I threw up in the sink. I didn't confront my mom right away. I took the envelope, said I needed air, drove straight to my apartment, and didn't answer her calls for days. When I finally called her, she sounded broken, said she'd explain everything, but I had to come in person. So I did. Here's what she told me. My parents struggled to have children. Years of miscarriages. Failed. IVF. Adoption applications denied. My mother was on the verge of a breakdown. My father took a job at a new hospital in Vermont in 1991. There he met a nurse named Rebecca, young, single, very pregnant. She had no family. The baby's father was abusive and had disappeared. She had no support. Somehow, my mum was vague, my Father arranged to help. He paid for everything, her prenatal care, her rent. In return, she agreed to let them adopt the baby. A private adoption. Quiet. No lawyers. No one would ask questions. My mother moved in with her for the last month, took care of her, pretended to be her cousin. I was born on December 29th, 1991, according to everything I've ever known. But, according to that envelope, Rebecca went into labor in early January. My mother insisted that part was wrong, that I was born in December. But when I pushed, when I begged, when I screamed, she finally admitted it. I wasn't born in December. I wasn't even the baby they were supposed to adopt. That baby died. Stillborn. My parents were devastated. Rebecca was grieving. She said, she didn't blame them. Said maybe it was fate. But then one morning, while they were all still in shock, Rebecca went out for groceries. On the way back, she was hit by a truck, died on impact. In her back seat, a baby. Me, 2 weeks old. I was never registered at the hospital. No formal adoption paperwork. No birth certificate in my name. No legal chain of custody. My mother looked me in the eyes, sobbing, and said, "You were a miracle, a second chance. No one came looking for you. No one asked. So we took you. We raised you. We loved you. They took me, like a lost dog, like a misdelivered package. They buried the other baby under my name, falsified documents, changed my birthday, never told a soul. And here I am. I've since done DNA tests, traced what little I could. Rebecca's family died years ago. Her abusive ex-boyfriend was incarcerated and died in prison. There's no one left, no one to claim me, no one to even confirm the story fully. But the dates line up, the documents are real. And I know now in my bones that I was never meant to be a Langston. I was supposed to grow up as someone else, or maybe not at all. I haven't spoken to my mother since that day. She calls, leaves voicemails, sends texts that say things like, "Please come home and you are my daughter." But it's like my soul snapped in half. I don't know how to look at my childhood without seeing it as a crime scene. I've spiraled, lost my job, stopped returning friends' texts. I stare at photos of my first birthday and wonder whose candles I was really blowing out. Every time I look in the mirror, I wonder what my real name was supposed to be, who I was before I was stolen. Some part of me still loves my mother. She raised me. She kissed my scraped knees and read me books and stayed up with me during fevers. But another part of me feels like she murdered someone, not with her hands, but with silence, with cowardice, with theft. I told a few close friends. They were horrified. Some said I should forgive her. She did what she had to do. Others said I should press charges, go public, ruin her. But the truth is, I don't know what I want. I feel like a ghost wearing someone else's skin. I've thought about changing my name, starting over, erasing the Langston identity completely. But what would I even become? So here I am, asking Reddit, because I don't know where else to scream. I the a-hole for cutting off my mother and destroying what's left of our family, or was I never part of it to begin with? Am I the a-hole for disappearing for 10 years and only coming back to destroy my sister's life after she stole mine? I've never written anything like this before, and part of me knows I shouldn't now. But I'm past the point of caring. My name doesn't matter anymore. Who I used to be doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that for 10 years I didn't exist, and then I did, and someone else stopped. That's the balance I restored. That's the wound I finally reopened to let it bleed clean. So call me the villain, call me the ghost. But hear me out, because this is how it happened. I had a sister. Her name was Charlotte. She was 2 years younger than me, beautiful, magnetic, the kind of girl who walked into a room and made everyone else disappear. I loved her. God, I loved her like a second heartbeat. We grew up inseparable. Matching clothes, inside jokes, late-night whispers under the blankets. Our mom used to say we were born from the same shadow. But somewhere around high school, things changed. Charlotte figured out how to manipulate people. Not in the petty, mean girl way. No, she was subtle, brilliant. She knew how to smile and make you feel like she saw your soul. And then she'd twist it until you forgot who you were. I was the quieter one, straight-A student, overachiever, rule follower. I didn't crave attention. I craved peace. I wanted a quiet life, a little house, a job I could be proud of. Charlotte wanted the world to look at her and never blink. And it started with little things, stealing credit for a school project, pretending I had a crush on a teacher to get out of detention, crying to our parents and claiming I slapped her when we fought. I knew she lied and she knew I knew, but she was so good at making people believe her. My parents always took her side. I started to pull away, spend more time at the library, find quiet places she couldn't follow. Then came college. I got a scholarship to a prestigious university, miles away, finally free. Charlotte stayed behind and went to a local school, started dating a boy named Liam. I met him once at a Christmas party. Polite, quiet, nothing remarkable. I remember thinking, he looked at me a little too long, but I brushed it off. I was dating someone else then, a guy named Drew, tall, funny, utterly in love with me. We'd been together since my sophomore year, and I thought we'd get married. I told Charlotte everything, every fear, every hope, every secret. I was still clinging to the sister I thought I had. Then, my last semester of college, everything fell apart. It started with rumors. My professors suddenly began treating me coldly. I lost my research assistantship without explanation. Someone had accused me of plagiarizing an entire thesis proposal. I was blindsided. Drew stopped responding to my texts. My scholarship was placed under review. When I went to confront Drew in person, he told me, stone-faced, that he knew everything, that I'd cheated on him, lied to him, used him for money. He'd received screenshots, emails, photos, everything. I begged him to show me. He refused. I went back to my dorm and found it ransacked. Photos gone, my laptop smashed. Campus security said I'd violated code of conduct and that I had 2 days to vacate. I called my parents. They said they were ashamed of me and suggested I come home to get help. I had no idea what was going on. No one would give me a straight answer. But then, the night before I left campus forever, I saw it. Charlotte posted a photo. Her, wearing my necklace. Her, sitting at a bar Drew and I used to go to. Her, holding hands with him across the table. Smiling. I knew she had done something. I just didn't know how much until years later. I went home, broken. My parents looked at me like I was a stranger. Charlotte acted surprised. "You poor thing," she said. "College stress really got to you, huh?" I wanted to scream, but she'd already rewritten the narrative. I was the unstable one. The liar, the manipulator. She was the poor sister trying to help me. Within a month, she and Drew were official. She moved into his apartment, the same one I'd picked out with him for after graduation. I snapped. I left. No goodbye, no forwarding address. I packed a single duffel bag, emptied my savings, and vanished. I lived in hostels, worked temp jobs, changed my name. For months, I slept in train stations. I dyed my hair, got fake IDs, did things I'm not proud of. I scrubbed my existence clean. No social media, no digital footprint. I wanted to disappear. And I did. I became nobody. I built a new life. I taught myself how to code, started freelancing under an alias. Eventually, I saved enough to start my own little cybersecurity business. Ironic, right? The girl who had her identity stolen now building digital fortresses. But I never forgot. Every year on my birthday, I checked. Not on Google, not with my real name. I had backdoors, tools, ways of seeing without being seen. I watched Charlotte's rise like a spectre. Her engagement to Drew, her glamorous life, her influencer profile, her TED talk about forgiveness and mental health. I nearly vomited. She wore my life like a costume, even used my old writings as inspiration for her blogs. I kept screenshots, files, a decade of quiet obsession, sharpening every year like a knife. And then last year she had a baby. Her daughter. Named her after our grandmother. The same name I'd once told her I wanted for my own future child. That broke me. That shattered whatever final thread I had been holding onto. I knew it was time. I started small. I infiltrated her. Business accounts, quietly, carefully. I fed anonymous tips to IRS auditors. I hacked her website, copied entire drafts of her ghost-written speeches, and posted them under anonymous Medium articles time-stamped weeks earlier. I found the personal nudes she'd sent Drew and had them flagged as revenge porn using a burner. Account, not to leak them, just enough to freeze her accounts and review hell. Then came the real part. I sent Drew a package, a USB drive, a folder titled Truth. Inside, old voicemails of Charlotte mocking him, copies of her messages to men she'd cheated with over the years, recordings she didn't know I had, ones from our teen years where she admitted to framing me. He went silent. 2 weeks later, their joint Instagram disappeared. Then I sent my parents a letter, no name, just a return address and a note that said, "Ask your daughter why her sister disappeared." And then I waited. It took 2 months, but eventually I got an email. One line from Drew: "Why didn't you come back sooner?" We met, quiet diner, middle of nowhere. He looked wrecked, older, sadder. He said he'd suspected things for years but felt trapped, that Charlotte had been off for a long time, that he never really stopped loving me, that their whole life was built on a lie. He begged me to come forward, to show people who I was, to reclaim my identity. But I didn't do it for him. I didn't do it for anyone. I went public last month, a blog post under my real name. I posted the documents, the screenshots, the recordings. I detailed what happened to me. I didn't even have to name Charlotte explicitly. Everyone knew. The fallout was nuclear. Her sponsors dropped her. She deleted every social account. Friends turned on her. My parents finally called me. My mom sobbed, my dad begged. But I didn't answer. I have a new name now, a new life, one I built, one that is mine. But some nights I still wonder, am I the a-hole for coming back just to destroy her, or was I just finally reclaiming the life she stole? Am I the a-hole for blowing up my brother's wedding because I discovered his fiancée is the woman who tried to ruin my life 10 years ago? I don't even know where to begin. I feel like my entire existence has been leading up to this moment. Gov madness. I'm 33M, and I've never been more certain about anything than what I did 3 weeks ago. Yet I've never felt more isolated, hated, or second-guessed in my entire life. I know people want me to regret what I did. My parents have essentially disowned me. My brother won't even speak my name, and I've lost friends who've been with me since childhood. But I swear on everything I am, I did what I had to do. Let me go back 10 years. Back when I was 23, fresh out of college, full of ambition and wildly naive. I landed my dream job at a tech startup. Small company, tight team, high stakes. I worked insane hours, practically lived at the office, all with the hope of being part of something big. My role involved security compliance and testing. Basically, I made sure our code wasn't vulnerable to outside threats. I loved it. I loved being the person everyone depended on when things went wrong. Around that time, I started dating a woman I met at a networking event. She introduced herself as Maya. She was gorgeous, articulate, confident, and involved in some vaguely defined cyber privacy nonprofit. We hit it off immediately. At first, everything was amazing. She was attentive, supportive, intellectually stimulating, and seemed genuinely interested in my work and my goals. In hindsight, it was all way too perfect. But I was a dumb 23-year-old in love, so I didn't ask questions. About 5 months in, strange things started happening at work. Unauthorized access attempts, mysterious code pushes that no one could trace. We thought we were being targeted by a competitor. I stayed up for nights on end tracking the breaches. Our investors were breathing down our necks, and eventually our funding got frozen. One day I was called into a meeting with the board, and they accused me of being the source of the leak. Someone had planted damning evidence on my accounts. File transfers, emails I never wrote, security holes tied directly to my credentials. I was completely blindsided. They fired me on the spot and threatened legal action. Even worse, word spread. My reputation was obliterated overnight. I couldn't get a job anywhere. People I once mentored ghosted me. Recruiters blacklisted me. I was untouchable. And then Maya vanished. I mean that literally. One day, I came home from grabbing coffee and she was gone. Clothes gone, phone disconnected. Her social media wiped. It was like she never existed. At the time, I couldn't even process it. I was drowning. I moved back in with my parents for a while, went to therapy, and slowly started rebuilding. It took years. Years. I legally cleared my name, but the damage was done. Eventually, I built a small cybersecurity consulting business of my own, took on small clients, and found peace in the slow work of healing. Fast forward to last year. My younger brother, Adam, 30 got engaged. We were never super close. He was always the golden child, the social butterfly, while I was the quiet one in the shadows, but we got along fine. He invited me to a family dinner to meet his fiancée, who he described as incredible, independent, a little mysterious, but in a sexy way. When he said her name was Amaya, my stomach dropped. I told myself it had to be a coincidence. It wasn't. The moment I saw her face, I knew. She looked different, dyed hair, glasses, more domestic in style. But it was her, Maya, the woman who destroyed my life, and she looked me right in the eyes, smiled politely, and acted like we'd never met. I excused myself halfway through dinner and left. Adam texted me later asking what happened. I told him I wasn't feeling well. Over the next few weeks, I went into full-on recon mode. I pulled every archived file, every hidden piece of metadata I could. I even dug through old encrypted email, backups, and I found her, multiple aliases, shell accounts, connections to known hacktivist collectives. She was a social engineer, a digital con artist, and I hadn't been her only target. She had a trail of carefully buried wreckage behind her. Fake credentials, sabotaged companies, devastated reputations, but she'd never been caught. She was smart. She knew how to clean her tracks. What she did to me had been part of a long, calculated career. I tried to confront her privately. I sent her a message and asked her to meet. She refused. Said she didn't know who I was, and threatened to file a restraining order if I continued harassing her. I lost it. I showed Adam everything, documents, logs, connections. He accused me of being paranoid, said I was jealous, said I'd fabricated the whole thing to sabotage his happiness. So I made a choice. At the wedding, right as the officiant was asking if anyone objected, I stood up. And I told the entire room the truth. I said her real name wasn't Amaya. I explained how she destroyed my life, how she'd used aliases to scam and sabotage others, how she had reinvented herself after every attack. I brought hard evidence. Printed logs, photos, documentation from private investigators I'd hired. At first there was stunned silence, then chaos. Adam screamed at me. My parents physically dragged me out. Her face, the calm, perfect facade, finally cracked. I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen in a decade. Fury. Like I'd touched a nerve no one else ever had. They called off the wedding. A few people tried to defend me, but most sided with her. She went on a media blitz among our social circles, painted me as an obsessive ex who couldn't let go. She even doctored some emails to make it look like I'd been harassing her for years. Adam blocked me. My parents said I should have let it go and trusted his judgment. Even my friends said I went too far. But something strange happened last week. I got a call from an unknown number. A woman whispered, "Thank you," and hung up. I traced the number. It belonged to a former CTO of a startup that imploded in 2017, one of her past victims. She must have seen what I did. Maybe I gave someone else closure. Maybe I helped someone avoid the hell I went through. And yet, I still feel hollow. My brother is gone. My parents act like I'm dead. My name is mud in my community again. I feel like I killed a part of myself that day, like I crossed a line I can't uncross. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing my brother's bride at the altar, even if she was the one who tried to ruin me? Am I the a-hole for exposing my wife's secret second family and ruining multiple lives in the process? Yeah, 38M. I'm currently sitting in a hotel room, staring at divorce papers I haven't signed yet, trying to figure out how my life unraveled so fast. If this post sounds scattered, I'm sorry. It's been 3 weeks since I detonated everything, and even though people keep saying I did the right thing, I feel like the biggest piece of shitey on earth. This story is long and complicated, but I need to tell someone. Maybe Reddit strangers will give me more clarity than my so-called friends or family have. I've been married to my wife, Jess, 37F, for 12 years. We have 2 daughters together, Amelia, 11F, and Lucy, 9F. Jess and I met in college. She was the witty, sarcastic girl in my economics class who never took anything too seriously and had this way of making everyone feel seen. I was the more straight-laced one, studied hard, part-time job, paid my own. Way through school. She was magnetic, a little chaotic, but beautiful and kind underneath the layers. We fell hard, moved in together 6 months after dating, and got married 2 years later. I thought we were rock solid. Life wasn't always easy. After the girls were born, Jess had a rough time with postpartum depression. There were years when I was the one carrying the emotional load, getting the girls to school, making lunches, balancing work and home life while Jess figured herself out. She eventually got better, started a successful freelance graphic design business and seemed to thrive again. I never resented her for those rough years. I believed that's what partnership meant. Being there when the other one is falling apart. I thought we were a team, until I learned we weren't. It started with little things. Late-night texts she claimed were client emergencies. A second phone I found hidden in the glove compartment of our SUV. She said it was for business only and acted like I was insane for asking questions. Then in February, she had to take a weekend work retreat in another city. I offered to come along and bring the girls for a little trip. She refused, said it was just for professionals. Something about her face when she said it, too rehearsed, too smooth, made me suspicious. So I did what I'd never done in our 12 years together. I snooped. While she was gone, I went. Through the cloud storage linked to our family's shared tablet. She didn't know that auto-upload was turned on. I found pictures that weren't meant for me. Photos of Jess at a park with 2 other kids, a boy and a girl, older than our daughters, maybe 13 or 14. She wasn't just hanging out with them, she was mothering them. In one picture, the boy had his arm slung around her shoulder like he'd done it 100 times. They were smiling like a happy little family. I stared at those pictures for hours, checked the metadata. They were taken over a span of months, different clothes, different seasons. This wasn't new. I confronted her the second she got home. I didn't yell, I didn't even cry. I just showed her the pictures and said, "Explain." She turned ghost white, sat down, said, "I was going to tell you." The same sentence I imagine cheaters have etched into their brains like a reflex. I laughed. I actually laughed like a lunatic. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "Are those your kids?" And she said yes. Turns out Jess had been living a double life for the better part of 8 years. 8 years. She met a man named Tyler at a design conference when Amelia was a toddler. They hit it off. She didn't tell him she was married. According to her, it started as an escape, a way to feel alive again when she felt like motherhood was crushing her. Tyler lived 2 hours away in another city. She would go see him on work trips. He believed she was single, he wanted kids. She gave him 2, a boy and a girl. And for nearly a decade, she played both roles, devoted wife and mom with me, and cool artsy single mom with him. The logistics still boggle my mind. She used fake names, fake addresses, claimed to work remotely, said our girls were her nieces. She had a whole persona crafted for that other life, and she was good at it. So good I never suspected a damn thing. She begged me not to tell. Tyler said she wanted to handle it on her own time, said she owed it to everyone to explain gently that she needed to protect the children. I told her she had 48 hours to come clean, or I would do it myself. She didn't, so I did. I drove to Tyler's city. I found his address through one of the pictures. I recognized a landmark, reverse searched the location, and tracked down where he lived. I showed up on a Saturday afternoon. The kids were outside playing. He answered the door with a smile and said, "Can I help you?" I said, "I think we need to talk about Jess." At first, he looked confused. Then I showed him a picture of Jess with our kids. His face dropped. I showed him a wedding photo. I told him everything. He sat down on the porch like someone had kicked him in the chest. His daughter came to the door and asked what was wrong. He told her to go back inside. We talked for nearly 2 hours. He was, understandably, devastated, angry, hurt, confused. The same emotions I'd been cycling through for days. His kids knew her as their full-time mom. She told them their dad was her one true love, and that they'd get married someday. They were planning to move in together in the summer. She was going to merge their lives. She had no intention of telling me. She was going to ghost me, take the girls, and disappear. That's what Tyler told me. That's what she had told him. After I left, Tyler confronted her. She came clean. Everything blew up. Here's where it gets messy. Tyler told his kids the truth. Jess begged him not to, but he refused to lie. They're in therapy now. Meanwhile, I filed for divorce the following week and filed for sole custody of our daughters. Jess is staying with her sister. Her entire family is furious at me. Not at her, at me. They say I shouldn't have told Tyler, that I robbed innocent children of stability, that I ruined 4 kids' lives out of spite, that I should have let Jess handle it with grace. One of her aunts even called me a vindictive bastard who couldn't handle being cheated on like a man. Even some of my own friends are unsure. One said, "It's not your place to blow up her other family." Another said, "The kids didn't deserve this." And I agree, the kids didn't. But what about mine? What about me? What about the fact that she was about to disappear with my daughters? And let me find out from a note on the counter. Jess has since tried to reach out. She wants to co-parent peacefully. She wants the girls to still have a relationship with their half-siblings. She says we can all work together as adults. I told her no. I told her she doesn't get to build a bridge over the nuclear wasteland she created just because she's suddenly in crisis. Now I'm getting messages from Tyler. He wants to meet again. Says he thinks we should find a way to connect the kids and establish some kind of understanding. I haven't responded. I feel sick all the time. My girls are confused and scared. They don't know the full story. I told them Mom made some big mistakes and needs to be away for a while. I haven't figured out when or how to tell them the rest. So here I am, sitting in this hotel, trying to decide if I did the right thing. Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing my wife's secret second family and destroying the lives of 2 innocent children in the process? Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister's child meet my son after what she did to me years ago? Throwaway because my family is very active on Reddit. This has been eating at me for weeks now, and I'm at a loss. I, 36F, have one son, Jamie, 6M. My sister Clara, 38F, has a daughter named Lily, 5F. On the surface, it seems like our lives are pretty parallel, both mothers to young kids, both living in the same city. But under the surface, there is a lot of unresolved pain, and I'm not sure if I'm being cold-hearted or just protecting myself and my child. Clara and I were close growing up, though not without the typical sibling rivalry. Our parents favored her more obviously, though they would deny it to their graves. Clara was always the gifted one, the pretty one, the girl who got the leads in the school plays and the best grades without trying. I was more of the quiet one, better at art and writing, but always told that I should be more like Clara. Whatever. I grew up, moved out, and tried to carve out my own identity away from her shadow. We were still in touch throughout our 20s, even went on a few trips together. But everything changed in the summer. I was supposed to get married. That was 10 years ago. I was engaged to a man named Ben. We'd been together for 3 years, and he was the first person I'd truly felt safe with after a long line of toxic relationships. I thought he was the love of my life. We were planning a full wedding. My sister was going to be my maid of honor. She was charming to Ben, warm and sisterly or so I thought. But around July, Ben started acting strange, more distant, more busy at work. He'd be glued to his phone more, texting someone and quickly putting it away when I walked into the room. I confronted him about it multiple times, and he insisted. I was just being paranoid. I chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters. Turns out he wasn't stressed, he was cheating. With Clara, I only found out because I used his laptop to print something and his email was open. There were threads and threads of emails between him and Clara. Not just flirty ones, but detailed plans for how they would come clean to me, how much better they were for each other, and how I'd eventually thank them for ending a relationship that wasn't right. I nearly vomited on the spot. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't even close the laptop. I called Clara immediately, and she didn't even deny it. She just said, "I was going to tell you." No apology, no remorse, Just the audacity to say that. Ben moved out that week and was living with Clara within a month. They dated for 2 years, then broke up. She claimed later he was emotionally abusive to her too, but by then I didn't care. I cut her off entirely. My parents begged me to forgive her, citing how family is everything and people make mistakes. But to me, that wasn't a mistake. That was a choice, made over and over to betray me. She knew my trauma. She knew how fragile I was finally feeling safe. And she still went ahead and destroyed it. Fast forward to today. I'm married now to someone amazing. Dan is the kindest, most emotionally intelligent man I've ever met. We had our son Jamie 6 years ago, and he is the light of my life. After years of therapy, I finally got to a place where I could hear Clara's name without flinching, though I've still refused to see her. She's reached out a few times, birthday cards, emails saying she misses me, a couple of messages. From her daughter's email typed by Lily, which I know are from Clara. I never responded. I have kept strict boundaries for my own peace, until recently. A few weeks ago, our mother was hospitalized for a minor heart scare. Nothing serious, but it brought the family together. Dan encouraged me to visit. I did, briefly, while Clara wasn't there. But she showed up right as I was leaving. I hadn't seen her in almost a decade. She looked older, softer, maybe even regretful, but I couldn't tell. We exchanged a brief cold hello. She cried and said, "I miss you so much." I just nodded and left. Since then, she's been trying harder to reach out. She sent me a long letter, handwritten, saying she regrets everything, that she made the biggest mistake of her life, that Ben manipulated her too, that she misses her sister. She also asked, this is the key part, if our kids could meet. She says Lily keeps asking about her cousin Jamie, and how sad it is that they don't know each other. She begged me to let them have just one play date. Said she won't come if that helps, that Dan can drop Jamie off somewhere with Lily, that she just wants the next generation to have a chance. I didn't respond. I told Dan and he supported me either way. My parents, though, found out and are furious. They said I'm depriving my child of a relationship and dooming our family to more decades of division. My mom actually cried on the phone, saying she's getting old and wants to see her grandchildren playing together before she dies. She guilt-tripped me hard. "You don't have to forgive her," she said. "Just let the kids play. Don't make Jamie pay for your pain." Now I'm torn. I don't want to let Clara back into my life. I don't want to open that door even a crack. But Jamie is innocent, and Lily is innocent. Do I have the right to keep them apart because of something? That happened years ago. Will Jamie resent me when he's older for not letting him know his cousin? Is it petty to protect my peace so fiercely that I risk isolating my son from his extended family? I don't know. Part of me feels strong and proud for holding my boundaries. Another part feels like maybe I'm becoming what I swore I wouldn't, bitter and closed off. I also worry that if Jamie and Lily bond, Clara will eventually be in my orbit again. That it'll start with playdates and lead to family holidays, an emotional manipulation and guilt and more chaos I'm not ready for. I worked hard for my peace. I'm scared of losing it. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for not letting my sister's daughter meet my son after what she did to me? Okay, so here's the situation, and I need to know if I'm the a-hole here. Let me start from the beginning because context matters. My parents passed away 5 years ago in a car accident, which was, well, it was devastating. They left behind our family's lake house, this old but charming cabin nestled in the woods about 2 hours from where my older sister Jenna and I live. Growing up, that place was everything to us. Every summer, every school break, we'd pack up and spend weeks there. Dad taught us how to fish off the dock. Mum would make bonfires and tell ghost stories. And even when Jenna and I hit our teenage years and started bickering non-stop, the lake house was neutral ground. After they died, Jenna and I agreed to keep the cabin. We couldn't bear the thought of selling it. We split the property taxes and maintenance costs, and we'd both go up there occasionally with our families. It felt like keeping a piece of them alive. Fast forward to now. Jenna's daughter, my niece Lily, who's 7, was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia 6 months ago. It's been hell for their family. The treatments are experimental and not covered by insurance, and Jenna's husband, Mark, took a Leave from his job to be at the hospital with Lily. The medical bills are piling up. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Jenna called me last week in tears, saying they're drowning. She asked me to consider selling the lake house so they can use the money to cover Lily's treatments. I didn't know what to say. On one hand, Lily is my niece. I love her. I've held her while she's cried after chemo. I've seen how pale and thin she's gotten, and I want nothing more than for her to get better. But the lake house, it's the last tangible connection to our parents. Selling it feels like losing them all over again. I told Jenna I needed time to think, but she blew up at me. She said I was choosing a building over her daughter's life, that I was being selfish and heartless. She hung up and we haven't spoken since. Here's where it gets messy. The cabin is technically split 50-50 between us, so I can block the sale if I refuse. But Jenna's right. Without selling it, they can't afford the next round of treatments. Their GoFundMe is stalled, they've maxed out credit cards, and Mark's job might not hold his position much longer. I've offered to help financially, but I'm a teacher, and my husband works in IT. We don't have that kind of money. We've given them what we can, but it's a drop in the bucket, the sigh. Rest of the family is divided. Our aunt and cousins are pressuring me to sell, saying property isn't worth a child's life. But my husband thinks Jenna is guilt-tripping me. He says there's no guarantee the treatments will work, and once the house is gone, it's gone forever. He's also pointed out that Jenna didn't consult me before draining their savings on alternative therapies earlier this year, which insurance also didn't cover. He thinks she's being reckless and that I shouldn't set myself on fire to keep others warm. Last weekend, I drove up to the lake house alone. I sat on the dock, exactly where Dad taught me to cast a line, and just cried. The cabinets still have Mom's handwritten labels for spices. The porch swing creaks the same way it did when we were kids. Letting go feels impossible. But then I pictured Lily's face, how she whispered, "Auntie, I don't want to be sick anymore," during my last visit. I came home and told Jenna I'd agree to sell if we could set terms. A portion of the proceeds would go into a trust for Lily's future, whether for medical needs or education, and the rest would fund her current treatment. Jenna refused. She said they need all of it now, and accused me of trying to control her. She even suggested I was hoping Lily wouldn't survive so I could keep the money. That shattered me. I hung up and haven't responded to her texts since. Now, the family is in chaos. Some relatives are calling me cruel for holding the house hostage. Others say Jenna's desperation is making her irrational. My husband supports whatever I decide, but thinks Jenna's crossed a line. I don't know what to do. If I sell, I lose the last piece of my parents, and possibly my relationship with Jenna over the resentment of my conditions. If I don't, I risk Lily not getting treatment and being blamed forever. I feel like I'm drowning. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to sell unless some of the money is protected for Lily's future? Or is Jenna right that I'm prioritizing sentiment over her daughter's life?